So, here we go. West African kingdoms. This PFA is about the Ghana and Mali trading empires. Geography of ancient Ghana. Despite its name, we've heard this before, right? Despite its name, the old empire of Ghana is not geographically, ethnically, or in any other way related to modern country of Ghana. About 400 miles to the northwest of where the country is today. So if you look at our map right there, you can see they've got shaded. This is where Ghana was, okay? The core. They would have had influence out further, but the core of the empire is right here. The modern country is like right here. So, ancient Ghana encompassed what is now modern northern Senegal and southern Mauritania. I can't pronounce things. It's a struggle. Origins. Nobody knows for sure when Ghana came into being, but it's thought that it was in the first century AD, so around the time of Christ, if you're of that persuasion, that a number of clans of the Soninke people, I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation too, in northern Senegal came together under a leader with semi-divine status called Dinga Cisse. I don't know how to pronounce that either. Semi-divine, what does it mean, divine status?
Like good. Godlike.
Godlike, yes. Not just good. So sometimes we think, oh, that dessert was just divine, right? It's good. But where does that come from? Go back further. It's holy. Go back even more to the root. Divine means godlike, absolutely. So if it says semi-divine, maybe they thought he was like a demigod, perhaps. I don't know. Part godlike status. Okay? So what do we know already then about the religious culture of Ghana? Were they monotheistic, do you think? Generally, if we have an empire or a political ruler that is godlike, generally part of a polytheistic tradition. So in this case, they're pagans. They have some animistic qualities to their religion. Remember animism? What is animism again?
Or everything has a soul.
Everything's got a soul. The air that you breathe, the water you drink, the rock that you sit on, it's all got a soul. There are different accounts of who he was, but all reports emphasize that he was an outsider that came from afar. It's likely that this federation of Soninke was formed possibly in response to the attacks of nomadic raiders who were in turn suffering from drought and seeking new territory. So there were people elsewhere that were moving out of their territory because life wasn't so good there anymore. So they moved into their area. So these people banded together to try to repel this group of people that are moving into their area. Further west was the state of Takur in the Senegal Valley. It was linked to the north via a coastal route leading to Morocco. So if we look at over on our big map here, important rivers in the area. You've got the Niger River, very long river system, okay? Kind of swoops, and it dumps its water into the Atlantic Ocean in the Gulf of Guinea, okay? That's the Niger River. The Senegal River, not nearly as long, dumps into the Atlantic Ocean near Cape Verde Islands. Yes?
Why was it important?
So why do you think the rivers were important for these empires, like ancient Ghana? What kind of empires? What was it based on? What was it?
Trading.
Trading.
Oh.
So why are the rivers important to trade? You guys are all throwing good stuff out. Trading, the boats can move on it better, right? Road systems are much more difficult and costly to build and maintain than, the rivers, just right there. Just put a boat on it, you can move goods, long distances, right? So the Senegal and the Niger connect inland Africa to the ocean, which connects them, as far as trade goes, to the rest of the world, right? Gold. What is clear is that the empire derived power and wealth from gold. And the introduction of the camel and the trans-Saharan trade boosted the amount of goods that could be transported. Gold's heavy, is it? Is it not? Most of our knowledge of Ghana comes from Arab writers. Al-Hamdani, for example, describes Ghana as having the richest gold mines on earth, as far as he knows, right? These were situated at Bambouk on the upper Senegal River. So toward the source of the Senegal River, we have gold mines. The Sonic also sold slaves, salt, and copper in exchange for textiles, beads, and finished goods. The capital of Kumbi-Saleh became the focus of all trade with a systematic form of taxation. We've heard that before, right? The Ghana Empire derived its wealth from the gold mines, sure, but also through trade. They taxed every trade. All right, this is an account by an Arab geographer by the name of al-Bakri. Al-Bakri. And he is describing the king in his court. Here we go. Royalty gorgeously attired is the title. Quote, the king adorns himself like a woman, wearing necklaces around his neck and bracelets on his forearms, and he puts on a high cap decorated with gold and wrapped in a turban of fine cotton. He holds an audience in a domed pavilion around which stand 10 horses covered with gold embroidered materials, and on his right are the sons of the vassal kings of his country wearing splendid garments and their hair plaited with gold. Wait, there's more. At the door of the pavilion are dogs of excellent pedigree. Fine breeding, right? Round their necks they wear collars of gold and silver, studded with a number of balls of the same metals, so gold and silver balls. This is again from the 10th century geographer al-Bakri. What impression does al-Bakri have upon seeing this? What does he think of the Ghana Empire and the king?
They're rich.
They're rich? Might we say he thinks they're loaded?
Yeah.
Right? These people, this trading empire is ridiculously wealthy. Yes? They've got gold on their horses. They've got gold on their dogs. Gold jewelry. Gold everything, right? Yeah, that's not real gold. I also want to point out this right here. This is important. On the king's right are the sons of the vassal kings of his country. So the king of Ghana is like the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings in this territory. Does that make sense? There is no one higher than him. He answers to no one. Godlike status, perhaps, right? The origin story, if that tradition continued, he might have got, this is a pagan culture. But it's also during the feudal times, yes? This is the feudal system in effect. So they use the term vassal. Remember the lord and vassal system? Vassals pledge allegiance to their lord. Yes? The king, the head king, I guess we might call him the emperor, perhaps, of Ghana. There are lesser kings, yes? So those small kingdoms that have all pledged allegiance to the emperor, they are vassals to him. They have pledged their allegiance to him. What are their sons doing with him at his court? Why are they there? There's two reasons why they send their sons to hang out with the king.
So they can help, be on his side.
Okay, so they can help be on his side. So this is a positive outlook. There's two ways. There's a negative way to look at it and a positive way to look at it. And they're both right. The positive way is, hey, they are acting as representatives from their smaller kingdom, right? They would probably learn from the king, wouldn't they? They would also educate the king on what's going on back home in their kingdom, right? They're like representatives. Good. That's a good thing. On the flip side, what?
I was gonna say they could learn from him and like see what he missed, like it's wrong or something to figure out a way to compete with him or something.
Okay, that might be going on in the background, sure. What do you think?
Can they spy on him?
Spy on them? They're going to be learning. They're going to be communicating back and forth for sure. What's the negative end?
Where he can be or kill him.
Huh?
Kill him.
Who's going to kill who?
The son's gonna kill King.
So these lesser kingdoms, the vassals to the Lord, right? They have sent their sons. Do you think it was entirely voluntary? No. The emperor says, send me your eldest son. So he can help represent you. So he can learn from me. And oh, by the way, if you try anything, you pledged allegiance to me. If you go back on your word, I have your son right here. Isn't it a threat too? Basically, he's holding their sons there as collateral. It could be, if it needed to be, almost a hostage situation, wouldn't it? When times are good, if everybody does what they're supposed to do, if everybody maintains their allegiance, it's a really positive relationship, I'm sure. But there's always that thought in the back of those lesser kings' minds, if I don't do what I'm supposed to, he could kill my son, right? So there's a positive and a negative, and both were at least partially true all the time. Okay. Brutal. Medieval times, man, it's brutal. All right? Oh, moving on. Sacrifice, the wealth of Ghana, is also explained mythically. Remember, this is a pagan people. Through the story of Beta, the black snake. The snake demanded an annual sacrifice in return for guaranteeing prosperity in the kingdom. Every year a virgin was offered up until 1 year the fiancé of the intended victim. So they don't say it right here. They're going to kill her as a sacrifice to this black snake. 1 year the fiancé of the intended victim. Could you imagine being like this man? Your fiancé, the woman you love, is going to be offered up as a sacrifice. Might you have mixed feelings about that? Like, I really want our kingdom to stay prosperous, and the black snake, he needs that sacrifice, but it's my fiancé. So his name was Mamadu, I don't know how to pronounce it. And he rescued her. So cheated of the sacrifice, the snake's ticked, right? The snake is now ticked off. Beta took his revenge on the region. A terrible drought, took hold of Ghana, and gold mining fell into decline. So this is a mythological story, but archaeologists have actually found evidence that it coincided, right? Does it prove the cause and effect? No, but you find evidence why the people believed this was the case. Because they found signs that, hey, they had sheep and cows and goats. But after this episode, times were tough. So they were only able to have like more drought-resistant livestock and goats. Anywho, trade. The route taken by traders of the Maghreb to Ghana would have started in North Africa, in Taert. Sweeping down through, I'm going to mispronounce that, Sigilamasa in southern Morocco. From there, the trail went south and inland, roughly running parallel to the coast. Then it curved around to the southeast finally ending up in Kumbi Saleh, the royal town of Ghana. So in your notes there, it probably has something about Kumbi Saleh. That's the capital of Ghana. So the trade route that they're describing here would have started up here in southern Morocco. Now remember, the borders wouldn't have looked like they do on our map here. Borders were loose, right? But they would have followed the coastline into the interior. Islam. Inevitably, traders brought Islam with them to Ghana. Initially, the Islamic community at Kumbi Saleh remained separated from the king's palace. The king is pagan. He does not convert. But clearly he's letting Muslims in, and they form like almost like a twin city to his capital, right there next to it, just a few miles away. Why do you think the king of Ghana, a pagan, would welcome Islamic traders and scholars? I mean, they build a whole little town there. Why? Because they're stronger than them? No. He doesn't let them in because they're stronger. Why?
Because they had good stuff to trade.
They had good stuff to trade. He is all about trade. This is how the Ghana Empire became powerful, through trade. So he sees this other trade empire. The Islamic world was all about trade too. So he absolutely, this is just another trade partner. I need to get along with them if I want to remain wealthy, or maybe even get more wealthy, more rich. So he lets them live right there next to the capital city so they can trade, so he can keep a close eye on it too, because remember, where does the Ghana Empire, the government, get their money from? What do they do to every trade that occurs within their domain? They tax it. So of course, yes, you're right, he welcomes them in because they're traders. That kid over there making noise. All right. That other Twin City thing, it had its own mosques, its own schools, but the king retained his religion, his traditional beliefs. He didn't convert. He drew on the bookkeeping and literary skills of the Muslim scholars to help run the administration of his territory. He sees that these Muslims are very intelligent, and he sees as an opportunity, well, I'll let them in, I'll profit from the trade, they can help to run my government. He doesn't apparently see any conflict of interest here. The state of Takrur to the west had already adopted Islam and evolved closer ties, trading ties with North Africa. So North Africa is Muslim, yes? It's already been conquered, already been converted mostly. To the west, Takrur has converted and is allying with North Africa. To the east, you have Muslim territory. To the south, there's still fellow pagans. But aren't they kind of getting surrounded? This pagan empire of Ghana is getting surrounded. And not just surrounded, but inviting to live amongst them. How did al-Bakri describe Ghana in the last account? As a rich trading empire. We want a piece of that, right? Now, Ghana's all surrounded. So here we go again. Here's al-Bakri describing Muslims in ancient Ghana. He says, quote, "The city of Ghana," he's referring to the capital city, consists of 2 towns situated on a plain. One of these towns, which is inhabited by Muslims, is large and possesses 12 mosques. In one of those 12, they assemble for Friday prayer. There are salaried imams, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it means, it's M-U-E-Z-Z-I-N-S. It's the person that does the call to prayer. So they go up in the, oh gosh, I have it written down because I couldn't remember earlier. The minaret. It's like this thin tower that they go up in, and they call to prayer. So they actually sing the call to prayer. Have you guys ever heard that before? Okay. You might see it in like movies you watch or something of the area what?
I use the bathroom.
Yeah. So what's an imam? They have imams, it says. I-M-A-M-S. You guys have seen this word before. What's an imam? Put it in your notes, or if it has it somewhere on that sheet, fill it in. An imam is the equivalent, I guess, of like a Catholic priest. It's an important religious figure. A teacher. I-M-A-M. If it's plural, throw an S on it.
Say Catholic what?
It's the equivalent. It's not a Catholic. They're Muslims. They're Muslim religious leaders, teachers. An imam. It'd be the equivalent of like a Catholic priest or a Protestant minister or pastor. Does that make sense?
How do you spell it?
It's right there. I-M-A-M-S. It's the third time I think I've spelled it.
I thought it was a highlighted.
Okay? The highlighted one here, M-U-E-Z-Z-I-N-S, those are the folks that go to the top of the minaret and they call to prayer. So they would sing the call to prayer. They also had jurists and scholars. What is a jurist? Come on, this is English, folks. This is not some foreign language. Huh?
Person that writes things.
Okay, jurisdiction shares the same root word, right? What?
Is it like a jury?
Yes, same root word as a jury. A jurist is someone that sits on a jury, right? They're part of the jury. So a jurist is someone that's part of the court system. They help decide who is innocent and who is guilty of any accused crimes or things like that, right? They help to determine what is allowed and not allowed in society. They hear complaints and they decide how to handle things. Does that make sense? This is a fully functioning city. It's got everything. Scholars. What's a scholar? Huh?
Scholarship?
No, a scholar.
I know.
A scholar is a person that does what?
Succeeds.
Think of root words, folks. If you get a scholarship, what are you getting supported to do?
Go to school.
To go to school. What do you do at school?
Learn.
Learn. So if you are a scholar, you are someone who's learned. Yes. You are someone who receives and gives, right? You're going to learn a bunch of stuff. And if your profession is a scholar, you're not just going to learn it, you're also going to
Tell it.
teach it. Right? So in this city, that's just a few miles away from the capital city in Ghana, you've got this Muslim city complete with mosques, schools, courts, the whole nine. And of course, they're doing trade there. The king has a palace and a number of domed dwellings, all surrounded with an enclosure like a city wall. And the king's town, around the king's town are domed buildings and groves and thickets. What are groves and thickets? Trees and thorny bushes and things like that, right? Where the sorcerers of these people, men in charge of the religious cult, live. In them too are their idols and tombs of their kings. Listen, are Muslims fond of pagans?
No.
How do Muslims treat Jews and Christians? To a certain extent, right? To a certain extent with respect. They are fellow people of the book, remember? That doesn't mean they don't get in some altercations. They are going to treat them differently. But they are fellow monotheists. Pagans have no protection. Remember dhimmi, the word dhimmi? Protected people status, right? You would treat, as a Muslim, you would treat Jews and Christians during this time with more respect than you would a pagan. You're not supposed to convert by the point of a sword Christians or Jews. You would want to persuade them to convert to Islam. But you wouldn't do it violently. With pagans, all bets are off. They are beneath the monotheists. They are lesser people. Does that make sense? So in our first account, he describes Ghana as what kind of empire? Rich. Now he's describing the people as what? Religiously. Remember, religion plays a huge part in medieval culture and the way people conduct themselves. The P word. What are these people? Pagans. Yeah, exactly. I just said. Look. Sorcerers of these people. Does that sound like he's looking up to these people? No. Does it sound more like he's talking down about them? Men in charge of the religious cult. If you're talking about a religion and you refer to it as a cult, is that generally a positive or a negative thing? In them too are the idols and tombs of their kings, Christians, Jews, Muslims, all of those religions. Is it a good thing to hold idols? Very much no. It's one of the commandments that Jews, Muslims, and Christians share, is it not? Shall not keep idols. So, in his first account, this is a rich empire. Yes? In his second account, this is an empire built on pagans. Is he laying the groundwork for the conquest of Ghana? Do you think the Muslims have their eye on Ghana like, they're rich, we want it?
Yeah.
They're pagans, they need our help. They need to be converted. And if they don't do it willingly, what? If they don't do it willingly, we will force them to. And if they have to die, so be it. They're infidels. Remember, this is the same way that Christians treated pagans in Northern Europe, isn't it? Yeah. Convert or we're going to fight you to the death. So again, that was geographer al-Bakri describing Ghana as a rich trade empire, like a jewel, but also as a pagan civilization. So they're feeling justified in their conquest. Okay, decline. There were a number of reasons for Ghana's decline. The king lost his trading monopoly. To who? The Muslims. Yeah, the trading Muslims, the Arabs, the Berbers. They started to move east. They started to bypass Ghana as a trade center. Why? If it costs more to trade somewhere, at some point is enough enough? Like Ghana is an important trade city because a lot of people were trading there. So word got out, if you want to do trade, go there. But if the taxes stifle your profit, wouldn't you be motivated to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
That might have something to do with it, right? Okay, so there's that. There's a drought going on. So they're not able to pursue agriculture as they had been. The empire of Ghana was also under pressure from outside forces. What outside forces? Muslims. Who's also inside of his own government now. The Muslims he invited in to help run the government. They have been infiltrated. And right here says there is an Arab tradition. The Arab Muslims tell this story. They say the Almoravid Muslims came down from the north and invaded Ghana. A military invasion. is one version of this story. The other version of the story is that it was a slower increase in influence and a gradual takeover. In either case, weren't they surrounded? And then they have Muslims inside their own government, right? So I don't know if I'd use the word hijacked, but infiltrated and slowly changed into, or it was a military campaign. If it's a military campaign, isn't it kind of handy to have your flanks protected? So if the main force is driving in from the north and the east and the west is also controlled by Muslims, isn't that a good thing? Yeah, for sure. All right, in the 11th and 12th century, new gold fields began to be mined at Bure, modern Guinea, out of the commercial reach of Ghana. You want to close the door? Not all the way. Come on. And new trade routes were opening up further east. Ghana became the target of attacks by the Sasso, I don't know, ruler, Sumanguru. Out of this conflict, the Malink emerged in 1235 under a new dynamic ruler, Sundiata Keita. Get used to that name. Soon Ghana was totally eclipsed by the Mali Empire of Sundiata. So this guy, great leader, who was also Muslim, by the way, supplanted the Ghana Empire with this new Mali Empire.